everybody, and welcome to my fall anime season first impression. I was so glad that people really liked the summer one. And I always wind up watching the first episode of a lot of stuff anyway, so I was like, alright, yeah, I'll make a fall one, why not? And of course I went way too ham. Like last time, I watched 16 things and I was like, 16 things? Oh my gosh, how am I gonna get through all of that? And this time I watched 21, but a lot of them are short form. There's a lot of short form stuff that came out this season, so I think that we'll get through it okay. But if I wind up rambling about a specific show for too long, I don't know. I'll punish myself somehow. Also, I just realized that I'm wearing a Labyrinth shirt and Sherlock earrings, both of which are not anime. So I really didn't accessorize very well for this video. Hopefully it'll still be okay though. Okay, so first show that I want to talk about is Noragami Aragoto. It's the second season of Noragami, and it's fantastic. Any of you who watched the first season, you know that the animation was gorgeous. The opening song, so good. And if you were worried that the second season might not be as good, it literally doesn't feel like any time has passed. You know how sometimes a show just manages to perfectly capture the exact same feel as the first season? That's totally how it feels. It feels as though it was a hiatus and not a separate season, you know, which is so nice. Like coming back and watching it, I'm like, God, it's been so long since the first season, and yet I feel like no time has passed. You all feel like the precious babies that I left behind when season 1 ended, which is fantastic. The first season is so good. If you've never watched it, you should definitely watch it first, because there are a lot of story elements that are carrying over. Again, it doesn't feel like it's taking the same characters in the same world and starting with a totally new thing. It feels like it's literally continuing the same big story arc. So, yeah, definitely watch the first season. I was convinced that the second season could not compare in terms of opening song, because the opening song of the first season was so good, but opening song of the second season, still pretty fantastic. I'm like, alright, okay. I'll just accept that whoever chooses the opening songs for Noragami has got it figured out. So yes, it's a great show. It's about a god who pretty much nobody remembers, and so he's trying to he's trying to become more relevant, essentially. So it's this world where there are all of these different Japanese gods who are, you know, more popular or less popular, and some of the sort of dark elements, different types of gods and things like that. It's very cool. Very cool. And again, animation is fantastic. So, I cried. I cried in the first season. I'll probably cry in the second season. It's great. You should watch it. Comet Lucifer, I watched because Sam wanted to watch it, and I didn't really have any interest. Like, I knew that it was another big mech show, and I know that a lot of people were excited about it, but I was kind of like, I don't know. So we've watched it. We've now watched the first 3 episodes. I think the first 2 are kind of like a continuation of each other, like the big, broad beginning of the whole story in general. And it's pretty cute. I actually like it a lot. The 3rd episode almost felt fillery, and it's like the very beginning of the season, which made me go, alright. But the characters, really adorable. I like the world that they're setting. I'm enjoying it so far. Is it a show that I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for the next episode of Comet Lucifer? No. It's not that show for me yet. But it's also not like a slow burn show. Like, it gets into the goods from the very first episode. If you read the description of this show, you're gonna be like, wait, is this actually just Gurren Lagann? Because the description sounds like it's just talking about Gurren Lagann. You're like, alright. But there are elements that are very different, so we'll see how it goes. I think it's gonna try to be more of like a cute mech show. Which could go bad or could go fantastic, so we'll see. Again, 3rd episode was kind of like, okay. But the first 2 episodes afterward, Sam and I were like, yeah, let's stick with this show. Let's see where it goes. So check that out, especially if you've been wanting more like mech or giant robot shows. Onsen, Yousei, Hakone-chan. Alright, this is our first short form. Are you ready? Are you ready? Okay, so this show is about a hot springs town, and the fairy or the god of the hot spring, depending on the translation, it calls her different things. But the spirit of the hot spring, right, shows up and it's a little girl, and so she's claiming to these two people, a boy and a girl. The boy has a huge crush on the girl. I think the girl has a crush on the guy, I don't know. But it's this little girl who's like, I'm the spirit of the hot springs. Give me all your hot buns, because that's apparently what they use as an offering to the hot spring god or the hot spring spirit, whatever. And she's like trying to regain her true form, which I assume is like an adult. And then at the same time, like sort of trying to help this guy get with the girl that he likes. So again, it's very short. It's just kind of like, here's a 5-minute shenanigan, you know? And it's cute. Is it anything new? Not really. But it is cute. It's a cute short show that doesn't have that same... A lot of times short form shows have sort of a very rushed feel to them. Like, alright, we're going to try to do everything that a full episode of an anime would do, except we're going to cut out a lot of stuff, right? It's just going to feel like we're jumping all over the place. And this one doesn't necessarily feel like that. It just, you know, they focus on one goof, that one goof happens, and then that's the end of the episode. And they're like, next episode, maybe she'll get some power back, but maybe she won't, you know? So it's cute, but it's nothing special. Let's talk about some for reals Gundams. Okay, Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans is one of the shows that I am like chomping at the bit for. I didn't watch it until like a week ago. I was like, oh, that's right. Wasn't there a Mobile Suit Gundam show that just started? I should go and find that. Watched the first episode and was like, this show is gonna be so cool. There's the loud truck. I knew you were gonna happen. I knew it. This show is so cool. The animation is awesome. The story that they're building, super interesting. Like, that's my hype show right now. And some of you are going to be like, what about One Punch Man? But I mean, like, in terms of a show that I'm going to take really seriously, I think Iron-Blooded Orphans is going to be it. The characters have got me so invested already. Like, I'm 2 episodes in, right? And I'm already just like, oh my god, Iron-Blooded Orphans, I love them. They're all my babies. I want them all to be happy. Mars Independence, yes, I'm in. So, definitely watch this show. Please watch this show. It's going to be 25 episodes, so it's going to be a longer term show than they normally are. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited for it, and I've loved all of it so far. Which, again, admittedly, this is a first impressions show, right? It's only 2 episodes, right? I'm only seeing 2 episodes of the show. I don't even care. I'm already like, no, this is one of the shows I'm going to stick with from beginning to end. I'm so excited about it. And hopefully it doesn't somehow let me down. But the first 2 episodes have already been so hype. I'm just like, I need all of it. I need more. So, yes, watch that show. If, like I was saying about Comet Lucifer, if you've been looking for a mech show or a show about big robots, oh my goodness, watch Iron-Blooded Orphans and then watch Comet Lucifer. If you're like, all right, I watch Iron-Blooded Orphans and I still want more, then go watch Comet Lucifer. But seriously, Iron-Blooded Orphans, oh, I'm so jazzed about it. I'm so jazzed. If that hasn't come across yet, I'm so jazzed about Iron-Blooded Orphans. Go watch it immediately. I don't even care if you don't like robot shows. I don't care if you're like, Gundam shows aren't really for me. I'm not really into it. I don't care. Go watch Iron-Blooded Orphans. It's so good. All right, let's move on. All right, let's talk about something silly. You want to talk about Dance with Devils? You want to talk about the weird musical harem show? Because I do. So originally I wasn't going to watch Dance with Devils because, okay, so there's Dance with Devils and there's Diabolik Lovers, right? Both of them are happening right now. The 2nd season of Diabolik Lovers is happening right now, and I was like, all right, I'm already going to be watching the 1st episode of the 2nd season of Diabolik Lovers just so that I can talk about it and how ridiculous it is. But I decided, you know what, I'll try out Dance with Devils too. Why not? I'll try it out. We'll see what it's like. It's actually really entertaining. Okay, so I've seen 2 episodes. Both episodes have had a musical number in them so far. Amazing. I think all of the dudes, okay, so it's one of those, here's a girl in school and she gets called into the student council, right? And then you're like, oh my gosh, I think all of the student council members are devils of some sort. and they sing at her and it's hilarious. So, I actually really like the main girl. I think she's adorable and has some agency. All of the dudes are super weird. Like not weird in the creepy Diabolik lovers way. They're weird in like a, who is this guy? Like, who does this guy think he is sort of way, you know? Yes, it's so entertaining. Like, for that genre of show, right, where it's like a girl who's being pursued by guys and they're all kind of like mysterious and weird and oh no, what do I do? Like, so often the girl in those is just like a weird meat sack that you don't care about. I actually really like the main girl in this one, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I like the main girl. There's musical numbers, all of the dudes are super weird and not as creepy as usual. Like, I'm actually probably going to watch this. I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to wait until it's all out and then watch it with my ladies, or if I want to just keep up with it. I have watched the first 2 episodes already, but I could stop there. And then we could, you know, sit and watch it with wine, which would be fantastic. But that show, like, if you're looking for something like that, if you watch Diabolik Lovers and you were like, there's something about this that I'm into, and the rest of it I'm just not into at all, or, like, Kamigami no Asobi, or any shows like that, this one is pretty hilarious. Like, I just love it. They sing musical numbers. Why? It's so weird. I need to know. I have to watch all of it at some point, even if I don't stick with it during the actual season and like watch each episode as it comes out. I need to know what this show is going to be like because it's so just silly and hilarious. Next one that I want to talk about is called JK Meshi. It is a short form. So it's another food show. Again, food shows are very in right now for whatever reason, but I'm all for it because I love food shows anyway, right? So the fact that I'm now also getting anime food shows, I'm like, yes, let's do that forever. JK Meshi is weird. It's a very weird show. I think each episode is like 3 minutes. It's about it's not even really about anything. It's 3 girls who I think are in a house. I don't know. It kind of looks like, when you watch it, you're gonna feel like you've flashed back to, oh, that'll be a pun. It'll feel like you flashed back to early Newgrounds Flash games or Flash videos, right? That's totally what it looks like. It's these 3 girls who are, I think, working on homework. So they'll spend the first, like, minute and a half talking about something that has to do with history or science or math or just whatever. They'll talk about some random element of schoolwork. And then they'll reach a point where they're like, man, we've been working so hard. We should eat something. And then one of the girls, who's I guess like the chef of the group, she'll cook them all a meal. They'll explain what the meal is. And then that's the end of the episode. So it's not really about food. Like, you'll start watching it and be like, this isn't, nothing having to do with food has happened so far, right? It's not really about food. It's just like, it's like 3 girls trying to do homework, making weird goofs at each other, and then one of them cooks a meal. And it all happens in like 3 minutes with kind of weird old Flash style animation. It's not that I think it's bad, it's just that it's just kind of weird, right? Like, it's just kind of a weird short form show. It's not that I'm walking away not learning anything. Like, I feel like they talk about things where I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then they cook a thing where I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And I don't feel like I've wasted my time, and I don't feel like it's a bad show. I just feel like it's not anything noteworthy, right? It feels like an experiment somebody's doing. Actually, I'll be using that phrase about other short form shows that we're going to talk about later. That one is less of an experiment than other ones that I'm looking at. But JK Meshi, I don't know. It's okay. It's an okay show. The end. Let's move on. All right. Are you ready to hear me try to read off a really long Japanese name? Sakurako-san no ashimoto ni wa shitai ga umateru. Baby. So this is the Bones show. This is what everybody is calling the Bones show. Or if you know the name of the anime, everybody's just been referring to it as Sakurako-san. So it's about a woman. Okay, let me pitch this to you, right? This show is about a woman who has been given the personality of Sherlock from the BBC TV show and is obsessed with Bones. So it's like Bones meets BBC Sherlock and then you smush them together and then that's the main character. It's about this kid who is in high school and he spends a lot of time with Sakurako-san. They're not together. They're not like boyfriend and girlfriend. She's older with a fiance that I don't think that we've met yet. And he just kind of like goes on weird adventures with her because she's obsessed with Bones. She loves going to look for Bones in random places. And in the first, like at the very beginning of the first episode, this kid is like, the weird thing about Sakurako-san is that pretty much every time we go looking for Bones, we find human bones. So in that way, like that's sort of the conceit to get her involved in murders and possible future murders. Just crimes in general. They're not all murders. They really aren't. And it's been interesting. It's been fun seeing. God, so many semi-trucks out today. It's been fun seeing a woman with sort of that personality. And you might say, well, we sort of got that with Bones, right? Bones, I don't think, came across as sort of like selfish as Sakurako-san does. And that's more where I think she gets her BBC Sherlockness from, right? Is that she's very, she doesn't really consider other people's situation, but the way that she analyzes Bones is interesting, is very interesting. They wound up putting a lot of effort into sort of a mind palace aspect of the show where she's like, all right, let's look at the crime scene, right? And there's like a whole big sequence that looks gorgeous. It looks fantastic. I really like this show. I think that it's going to wind up being a good show overall. It's not as tense and intriguing as I expected it to be, but it's really interesting to watch, I guess. I like the scientific and bone explanation elements that they involve in the show, and I'm hoping to see sort of like a bigger story arc start soon. They've kind of hinted at one, but one hasn't started within the first couple of episodes, so yeah. I like that show a lot. Again, the name is so long, and I don't know what the translation is for it, but it's the Bones show. If anybody's been like, oh, the Bones show, I'm interested in that, that's the one. Sakurako-san, no, blah, 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 blah. This is also the show, by the way, I just remembered this. This is also the show where if you follow me on Twitter and you saw me post a picture of a woman looking through a window with her hand all, like, jacked up, that's where I got that screen cap from, is the opening of Sakurako-san. And I was like, really, on the opening? On the opening? And everybody was like, I mean, it's this studio's second anime, like, cut them some slack. And I was like, on the opening? Like, you can't just make sure the hands look okay in the opening of your show that's gonna happen for every episode? Whatever. It's a good show. It's nice. Go watch it. KAGEWANI! Okay, KAGEWANI is a short form that I was so super not sure about for the first, like, episode, and then by the second episode I was going, alright, I'm kind of into this. These people have made an anime before. I can't remember what it was called, but the animation is sort of, if you take the kind of paper doll-esque animation style of Metalocalypse, like early Metalocalypse, and apply it to an anime with sort of a watercolor aesthetic to it and texture, that's what this show looks like, which is why when I first started watching it, I was like, this seems weird. Like, this is very weird to watch. It's about a guy who's obsessed with kaiju. He's obsessed with finding monsters all over the world. Normally, so far at least, the first couple of episodes have focused on a different person, like not him. A different person who interacts with this kaiju. He is involved in more of like a research element, like he's looking for these monsters, he winds up at the scene or involved in it somehow, but he hasn't been, he's the constant thread, but he's not the main character really so far. I would love it because he has like this big scratch over his eye. Just scratched myself by accident. He has like this big scratch over his eye, right? So I would love it if we got kind of the story throughout this whole thing. Each episode is like 7 minutes long, so they're able to do a decent amount with the episode. It's not like JK Meshi where it's 3 minutes. 7 minutes you actually get a decent short story out of. So I'm hoping that it turns into the story of him trying to find the monster that attacked him or something similar. It's cool. Like I said, halfway through the first episode, I was going, I don't know about this. Because it seemed like nothing was going to connect. And then at the end of the episode, when you first see this guy, I was instantly intrigued. I was instantly like, I don't know what I just watched, but I want to see more of it, you know? And I really enjoyed the second episode, too. I thought it was super cool. So I'm actually really excited about this show. I'm not sure, I'm trying to remember where you can watch it. I think that one's on Crunchyroll, actually. But it's cool. It's really interesting, super different. So I recommend that one for sure. And again, each episode is only 7 minutes long. So what have you got to lose? Just watch the first episode. See if you're intrigued, right? It's cool. Okay, let's talk about One Punch Man, because you want to talk about One Punch Man. I want to talk about One Punch Man. If you haven't been watching anything this season, you've probably heard somebody say, oh, well, if you're going to watch anything this season, you gotta watch One Punch Man, which I totally agree with. It is, I think, my favorite out of everything that I've watched so far this season. It's so good. So One Punch Man is literally a parody of the shonen battle genre, while being an extremely good example of the shonen battle genre. It's like, it blows my mind. It started off as a webcomic, and then it was picked up by, basically, like, they went to the guy who makes the webcomic and said, what if we give you an incredible artist to make your webcomic as, like, a full-on manga? And he was like, sure. So it's, like, fantastic. The art is incredible in the manga, and a lot of people were really worried that the anime wouldn't be able to hold up, you know? But it's fantastic because it's Madhouse, and Madhouse does incredible action anime. So, it's been really good so far. We've seen 3 episodes of One Punch Man so far, I think, and it's really held up. And it's followed the manga. It's been really good. They've blended sort of this style of really intense, epic-looking battles with sort of these silly deadpan moments that were so iconic in the manga. They've done it really, really well. And the way that I know that, aside from the fact that I've read the manga, is that I felt like what was going to really sell it for me on whether or not this also worked for people who didn't read the manga is to make Sam watch it, right? So I was like, Sam, you've got to watch this anime. I think you're really gonna like it. And after the very first episode, he was like, that was amazing. Like, that was so good. We have to watch this show. This has to be our show this season. And I was like, yes! So, yeah, there's a lot of hype around it because it's really good. Like, there's a reason there's so much hype, right? The comedy is on point. The music is so good. This morning, I was getting ready for Daily Bite, and I had a song from the soundtrack stuck in my head playing over and over and over again, and I was like, I can't remember where this is from. And then it hit me that it was from One Punch Man, and instantly I was like, I want to watch One Punch Man so bad. Like, I finally remembered, oh my god, that's from One Punch Man. I want to watch One Punch Man right now, you know? It's fantastic. It's a really good show. If you've seen a lot of shonen battle stuff, you're going to see references to things from the very beginning of the show. And it does it so well. It really, really, really does parody the genre while being just an incredible example of it. And that's so hard to do. Like, how do you even manage that? And as somebody who's read a lot of the manga already, I can tell you that it just continues to be fantastic. So, definitely watch One Punch Man. Like, when I say definitely watch Iron-Blooded Orphans, definitely watch One Punch Man, and then watch Iron-Blooded Orphans. Those are, like, my 2 favorites from this season, I think. But there's still plenty of good stuff that we're going to talk about. So don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. There's plenty of stuff to talk about. Just go watch One Punch Man, okay? Utawarerumono is the show that's more fantasy themed that I'm super into. It's going to be a 25 episode show. So again, it's going to be longer than the normal like one season shows. I watched the first episode and I was like, I don't know what this is going to be about, but I like it. And I don't only like it because there's cat people in it. Okay? I just want to establish that. For anybody who's been watching it, there are cat people in this show. But it's like, oh my gosh. It has this really interesting element where, so our main character has amnesia, which is such a typical plot bunny, I know. But they're utilizing it in a way where they pull back layers of the onion and you're like, oh, that's a really interesting onion, right? So it's about this guy who wakes up in this world. He doesn't know anything about himself. He doesn't know anything about the world he's in. And things slowly start to kind of click, not necessarily for him, but for other people. So, like, he gets found by this girl who has cat ears and a tail, and she's adorable, and I love her, and she's like, oh my gosh, I don't know who you are, but you obviously need help. Like, come back with me to this village that's nearby, because she's kind of, like, nomadic. And she's like, there's a village nearby, come with me, you know, and at the very least we can find you shelter and something to do, like a job that you can do until you get your memory back. And the first couple of episodes are like sprinkled with action, but for the most part it feels very like establishing, right? It feels so much like playing a JRPG, and I said that on Twitter and somebody was like, oh, well it is part of a JRPG franchise. And I was like, oh my god, that makes so much sense, right? Because they spend a while being like, here's the main character, here's like this new world that he's in, here's all of these people that he's just now meeting, you know, he's kind of like fish out of water, he feels strange, he's not sure about the culture he's in or where he's from, like, they do a lot of that to sort of utilize him as you know, like when you're watching it, you're like, okay, I'm starting to get a feel for like this world and these people and this culture and blah, blah, blah. And now we're starting to get some interesting, meaty bits, right? And that's been so cool. It's really, really fun so far. Again, this is another show where it's great animation. The characters are all kind of like, they're not extremes. It's not like in a shonen battle, you know, where all of the characters are just like, I'm so and so, and I'm the most amazing French presser of them all. Oh my gosh, if I ever made like a coffee anime, that's what it would be. It would be a shonen battle coffee anime. Hold me to that. Anyways, so it's not people claiming to be, you know, the best at something. It's a lot of people sort of living their lives, but in this fantastical world. And you can tell that there's going to be a journey that's going to happen, right? And I'm excited to watch it because there's a very relaxing element to it while also being very engaging fantasy-wise. So yeah, if you're looking for a show that has, you know, sort of sweet, interesting characters, is not in like a fluffy animation style at all. I think the animation style is very neutral while still being good. And yeah, we'll just like hit that fantasy craving that you might have. You should try out Utawarerumono, because it snuck up on me. I watched the first episode and I was like, alright, this is okay. And then I watched the second episode and I was like, you know what, I actually really like this. I am actually really liking this show, and I just watched the third episode. Like, yeah, I actually like this show a lot. Like, this is definitely going to be a show that I try to stick with, so yeah, check that one out. Komori-san wa Kotowarenai is a show about a girl. It's a short form. It's a show about a girl who can't say no, is the idea of it. It's about this girl, this super tall girl in school who everybody asks favors of, and she helps them out with whatever they need help with. And I've watched 2 episodes of it. Both episodes have literally just been like, you know what I was saying? Okay. You know when I was talking about Onsen Hakone-chan, the one about the hot spring spirit, right? And I was saying, oh, it doesn't feel like it jumps around too much. Okay. Komori-san feels like it jumps around so much. Like, it's very short. It's like 3 or 4 minutes long. I think 3 minutes. Maybe even less than that. I can't remember. It's a super quick show with this girl who's literally just constantly being asked to help out with things. Like, that's been the entire show for the first 2 episodes. If that's the entire show for the rest of it, I'm gonna be like, there was literally no point in making this show. It's cute! It's got cute characters, cute animation, but it doesn't try to have, you know, like, one thing that's going on in each episode. It's like, Komori-san, help me with this! Komori-san, help me with this! Komori-san, help me with this! And then at the end of the episode, they're like, wow, Komori-san, you just keep doing so much stuff for everybody. Good thing that we're your real friends, right? Because she's got, like, 2 best friends who just kind of, like, hang out with her, and I don't know. It's funny, but, like, it's not funny in a way where I'm like, I feel so entertained. I watch it and I'm like, I don't know. The pacing on this is so bad, right? It just has, like, really bad pacing while having potential to... It has the potential to be laying the groundwork for something cute, right? If it wound up being, Komori-san can't say no, but, you know, by the end of the show, it'll be like, she got some confidence to, like, watch out for herself and not constantly do everybody else's stuff for them, right? If they were able to do that well, sure. But right now, the pacing of the episodes is so just like, whoa, like whiplash, that I don't think they would be able to get a cohesive story out of it, which is too bad. Shingeki Kyojin Chuugakkou! Oh my god, this is Attack on Titan Junior High. If anybody's been hearing about that, it's so cute. I love this show. If you love Attack on Titan, and you've been one of the people who's like, I don't want to wait until 2016 to watch more Attack on Titan. I want Attack on Titan right now. You should watch Attack on Titan Junior High because it literally takes everything about Attack on Titan and parodies it, turns everybody chibi, gives it really good animation, the exact same voice actors, and then just, like, is a constant parody of itself. It's so weird. I showed it to Alice while she was visiting me because she loves Attack on Titan. She was like, I don't watch very much anime, but I love Attack on Titan. And I was like, oh my god, we should watch the Attack on Titan Junior High show and see if you like it. She was like laughing her patoot off because she's just like, this is so weird, right? It makes fun of the whole thing. The whole show. It parodies the intro. It parodies character relations. It's really adorable, and I think if you're an Attack on Titan fan, you should absolutely watch it. Like, hands down, you should give it a try. Octopimp gave me the fish eye yesterday when I was like, oh my god, Attack on Titan Junior High, have you watched it? And he like gave me this look like, why would I watch that? It's obviously going to be terrible. And I was like, no, you don't understand. It's actually good. It's actually really funny. The fact that they have all of the same voice actors, I think, really nails it. Kowabon is another short form that was obviously experimental, and I'm not sure how I feel about it so far. It's supposed to be horror, right? I think it's like episodic horror, kind of creepypasta feels, you know. And I think it's doing that thing where they like film a real person and then put filters over it so that it looks like it's animated, you know? The first episode was not very scary, and because of the way that it looked, it was kind of distracting almost. I wanted it to feel very creepypasta, right? I wanted to watch these episodes and be like, oh, that was short, but it got across, you know, an interesting, spooky story. And the first episode, at the very least, like, again, this is a first impressions show, so I don't know. They might do some interesting stuff with it later. But the first episode fell a little flat for me. It wasn't as thrilling or scary as I wanted it to be. And I watched it at night, too. I was like, I'm gonna do the full on. I'm gonna do the full on. And not the flan, the full on. The full on viewing of a horror type thingu. And it was just kind of like, oh, it was okay. I liked that during the ending credits, they show you them filming, like, the real person who you know, who they filtered in order to turn into an animation. But, it just wasn't scary. And it needs to be scary, right? So yeah. That's really all that I have to say about that, because they're so short. But try it out if you want something sort of like spooky to watch. I guess it's worth a try. If they might do some interesting stuff with it down the line, but the first episode was a stinker. Lance and Masques. I don't know what to say about Lance and Masques. I watched the first episode, and I had sort of like embarrassment squeaky moments, and not hilarious embarrassment squeaky moments like with Prison School. I had embarrassment squeaky moments where I was like, I think I'm supposed to find this charming or cute, and I just don't. It's about it's about Metal Gear Solid. It's about a group of knights who don't work for any country, they just work for the world and maintaining the peace of the world. There's this kid who is an official knight, and he's just kind of like out walking around being a knight, right? And he meets this little girl who's the heir to a corporation, but she lives by herself. And he decides to stay with her and be kind of like her protector, her knight. The style is a little too cute for me. And it's not that I don't like cute shows, but I think it's the animation combined with the concept that is hard for me. Like when he transforms into a knight, because he does like a weird henshin into his knight form with his giant lance. So when he transforms into a knight and is like being a gallant knight with people, right? He just looks too cute. He looks too like squishy, and like he doesn't look like a knight. He looks like a little kid who's pretending to be a knight, which I guess is kind of part of it, and yet everybody has sort of like a cute squishy look to them. And I don't, for a story about knights, I don't think that it works very well. For me, at least. Some people have been watching it and saying, oh, it's really cute, I like it. And I like the concept. Like, the little girl is adorable. And I love this whole idea of finding purpose just protecting one person or being there for one person, you know? And maybe that's not what the full story winds up being, but I liked that that's kind of how the first episode was starting to look. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't quite do it for me. It might wind up being good, but it's just a little too cute for me, I think. Like, for a story about knights, I don't think I can stick with it because I can't take him seriously as a knight. That is, for real, my biggest problem with this show. Speaking of knights, Chivalry of a Failed Knight, watched that on Hulu the other day. I actually hadn't heard of it at all, and then it was like, watch the first episode of this show that just started, and I was like, oh, Chivalry of a Failed Knight, huh? Sure, I'll watch it. It was listed as a romance show, and I was like, oh, I'm not watching that much romance stuff. Yeah, I'll give it a shot. So it's about this girl who's like extremely talented as a knight, and in this world, knights are like magical knights, basically. So she has like all this power and all these abilities, and she comes to this school that's supposed to train magical knights. She wants to become, you know, like the best knight so that she can help out her home country. And she winds up being roommates with the worst magical knight in the school. And she hates him. She thinks that he's peeping on her. I don't even know. And so then they challenge one another to a duel. And they fight the duel. And I'm not going to spoil it for you, but what you're thinking happens totally happens. And, yeah. I started trying to watch the second episode. I got like halfway through it and walked away from it, which is not a great sign. But it's not that there was anything wrong with it. I actually kind of like the concept, and I like that it's listed as a romance, because it has to proceed in a way that is different from what I would expect from that beginning, you know? But the main girl drives me nuts. She's like so like aggressively tsundere in the first episode, and it drives me nuts. Like she's very arrogant and like, you know, everybody's beneath her, but then we see like her soft side, and I'm like, oh gosh, this is like Evangelion all over again. Like it's driving me crazy. In the second episode, it seemed like she was being a little bit sweeter, like a bit nicer, which is good. It's like if that sort of character progression happens quickly, where she becomes bearable within the first couple of episodes, then cool. And I would like to see them, you know, fall in love, because I'm assuming that's what's going to happen in this story. But yeah, it was like okay. It was like an okay show. There's nothing wrong with the animation. The fighting actually looked really cool. But this was another show where I was like, I'm sure it's going to wind up being an okay show. It's nothing that I'm going to be just, like, ravishing for. That's the wrong word. But it's nothing that... what's the word I'm looking for? Ravishing for? Sure. You know what I mean. So we'll just stick with ravishing for. It's not a show I'm going to be ravishing for. But it looked like it was okay. It looked like it was going to wind up being a cute show. So... yeah, there's that. Tantei Team KZ Jikan Note. It's a short form detective show about little kids who form a detective group. And it's like, alright, I guess. A lot of people, it's so funny. I was looking at the comments on this show, and a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, this is so cute. And I was like, it's about this girl who doesn't have any friends. Establish that. She has no friends, and she winds up in this sort of like study class, like extra study class, with these boys who are on the soccer team, and they're so dreamy, and everybody likes them. But she had like a bad run-in with them, so she thinks that they're all, you know, mean, rude boys. So she winds up in this class with them, and one of the guys, who's the meanest and rudest of all of them, he loses his bike. And he's like, you need to help me find my bike. She's like, okay. And that's as far as I've gotten. I've watched the first 2 episodes. Again, it's short form, so it's like really short episodes. I was like, oh, a detective show about a girl and 4 boys. Sure, why not? I'll watch that. So far it's been like this girl trying to make friends with these boys, and the boys all being, like, the boys being established as full-on anime archetypes. Like, there's the guy with the glasses, and they were like, oh, how can we possibly find the bike without your analytic mind? And I was like, And then there's the guy with the longer hair, and they're like, how can we possibly find the bike without your connections? Because he flirts with everybody. It's like, I could have just glanced. I could have glanced at these characters and been like, that's gonna be the smart nerdy kid, that's gonna be the lady killer kid, that's gonna be the asshole kid, and that's gonna be the kid who's like super cool and fun, right? Like those are the 4 guys, and then there's the girl who's in her like cute little dress who's kind of quiet and has no friends, and I'm like, it's alright. I don't know. I mean, I don't expect this show to be good, I'll be honest. I think it's going to be pretty formulaic. The fact that they're listing it as a detective show, though, like, is intriguing to me, I guess? I don't know. I'm like, we have so little time. We have so little time to solve mysteries that if this what if this entire show winds up just being them trying to find the bike? Like, the whole arc of this season is just them trying to find this kid's bike. Because we're 2 episodes in, and they haven't even really started to find the bike yet. So to be honest, I'm gonna skip that show. I'm not gonna keep watching it. I don't find it interesting. But apparently some people do. Apparently some people were like, this is so cute, I can't wait to see how they all become friends and if they fall in love. I'm like, alright. Sure. Enjoy that. I don't know. It just seems very... Concrete Revolutio Choujin Gensou was kind of a disappointment for me, only because they did a lot of, like, time skipping that wasn't super clear. So the concept of this show is that it exists in a version of Japan where all of the different sort of superhumans that exist in anime and manga all exist in the same world. So, like, there's Gundams all over the place, there's magical girls, there's, you know, mutants, there's all kinds. There's aliens, like, just everybody, right? Everybody exists in this world. They all try to hide it because they're not, like, people aren't supposed to know who they are. While at the same time they're trying to, like, do good in the world, maybe. Or maybe they're villains and they're trying to do bad in the world. And it's about this group who try to protect superhumans. So it's not necessarily about the superhumans, it's about the people who are trying to protect the superhumans from other people who don't want superhumans around. The first episode, the animation is actually kind of fun. It's different, it's very bright, it's a very vibrant show. I like that it involves so many different random things inside of this world, right? But, like, halfway through the episode, they started to do this weird jumping back and forth thing that confused me so badly. Actually, they did it throughout the whole thing, now that I'm remembering, because there was some stuff at the beginning, too, where I was like, that was weird, but then I realized, oh, that was supposed to be happening at another time, I guess. They didn't make the time skips very obvious. They didn't make it obvious when it was, like, present day or, you know, in the past or any of that. And that might have just been establishing episode syndrome, right? Like, the first episode might have been like that, and the rest of them will be totally fine and linear, which would be fantastic. But, yeah, a lot of people were really looking forward to Concrete Revolutio, and I watched it. It's like, man, there's some things about this that I love. I love how vibrant it is. I love the animation style. I love the concept, right? But the way that they drove the plot in this first episode was so weird. Just made no sense. So I don't know. Like, out of everything on here, Concrete Revolutio, I'm not sure whether or not to recommend, which is a weird feeling, because I'm like, I think that it might wind up being a good show. I think that I would want to recommend it based on the things that I loved about the first episode. I would want to recommend it. And yet, there are so many things. Like, at the end of the episode, I felt so confused, and I hate that feeling, right? I hate when I can tell that it's not my fault. It was their fault, because they set up the episode wrong. So I guess I'll say I recommend that you check it out. See if maybe you followed the first episode better than I did, because I was so confused. Because I'm definitely gonna watch the second episode, because I want to know whether or not it gets better and more clear. And if it does, then it could be a really cool show. It could be like a really cool sort of strange show, which, you know me and you know that I love weird, strange shows. So I don't know, let's do it. Like, let's give it a shot. Let's give it the old college try. Watch the second episode and see how it is. But based on the first episode, lots and lots and lots of cool things with some stuff that just confused me so badly. Fushigi no Somera-chan is a short form. I'm going to keep this really short. And not only because it's a short form, but because, like, nothing happened in this episode. It's about two sisters. One of them has inherited the ability to, like, use her fist to do weird stuff. And that's it. First episode was kind of like, huh? And then it was over. I don't even know what to tell you. Out of all of the short form stuff you could be watching, that's not on my list. Diabolik Lovers. More blood. This is the second season of Diabolik Lovers, which is a harem show about a girl who is trapped in a house. She's in a house with a bunch of vampire brothers who are all super creepy and just the worst. The first season, the only way we could get through was for Angie, Aaron, and I to all sit with, like, a bottle of wine each and watch this show with a drinking game. And by, like, halfway through the season, we were so drunk we were screaming at the TV about how stupid everybody in this show is. Like, I hated this first season so much. It's just like, why? Why are you all so creepy? Why don't you ever try to escape? What? Like, so many things happened in the first season that made me just just angry. Just so angry. The show is based off of a visual novel that is worse. It's worse. It's way worse than the show. I went to look it up later. Right after I got done with the first season, I was like, I wonder what the dating sim is like. And I looked up some of their cutscenes, and I was like, oh, it's even creepier than the show. That's interesting. So they decided to make Diabolik Lovers more blood. Which, if you thought it was going to be any less weird, you were wrong. You were so wrong. Within the first, 3 minutes, she wakes up in bed, and there are, 5 of the dudes on the bed with her all being like, you're awake. Let us suck your blood. And they're all, trying to get up on her all at the same time. And I was like, what is happening? What is happening in this show? God. So, what they decided to do this time is add in more boys. So, there's more vampire boys who are not with the original vampire boys. They're, separate vampire boys. And I think they're gonna try to, kidnap her, and then suddenly she'll be in a house with new vampire boys, and then the old vampire boys probably have to go and try to defeat the new vampire boy. I don't even know. Guys, I don't know. It's weird. It's so weird. Diabolik Lovers is so weird. It's just... Oh my god. Just flashing back to watching that first season and being like, what? Just constantly huh? Young Blackjack! Oh, guys, I used to love Blackjack. When I was way younger and first getting into anime, Blackjack was one of those shows that I just kind of watched on a whim. I had learned at that point that it was very important to read, the thing at the bottom on the back of the VHS tape that said, all of the different warnings. And Blackjack was one where I was like, all right, there's some violence, but I can deal with some violence. I'll be fine, Mom. Watched Blackjack, and it was great. It's about a surgeon. It's about, a really good surgeon. We read the manga on MangaPod, and I mean, Blackjack is, one of the oldest anime characters, right? So it's really cool to see them bringing Blackjack back. Young Blackjack is about him when he's in medical school, and it's really cool to see Blackjack with, modern animation. I'm just like, oh, my Blackjack. Literally within the first episode, he takes off his shirt. Right off the bat, you see him shirtless, and it's so funny. I'm just like, mm-hmm. There you are. There are some things that they really stuck with in, the Osamu Tezuka style. The father of anime, if you will. His stuff, especially Blackjack, always felt like this weird combination of super, super, super serious, and then elements that were kind of goofy. Blackjack was always drawn very seriously, right? But then there would be side characters who weren't necessarily involved in, a goof or a gag. They just looked silly. They would be just drawn with a really silly face. And they totally keep with that in Young Blackjack. Anytime it's just Blackjack doing Blackjack stuff, he looks really intense and serious. But sometimes there are frames where it's here's Blackjack looking super cool, and then this team of yahoos who are all behind him looking super weird, right? So far, it's kind of, medical mystery of the week, which is fine, and is kind of in the Blackjack style. But I hope that it gets more, I hope that there's more meat to it. Right now it's just, here's Blackjack, and he's, a young surgeon who hasn't done much surgeoning, but is so gifted that he nails it every time. I'm like, I'm cool with that. So I love you, Blackjack, but I want some tension. I want some real tension with you. So we'll see. We'll see if they employ kind of more of a tense situation for him, because every episode is gonna wind up being this person's gonna die, and then he'll be like, I'll surgeon you, and then he'll surgeon them and nail it, and then he'll probably get screwed over somehow. That's kind of the typical plot line of Blackjack, but I don't know. We'll see. I want to see the story of him meeting his little assistant girl. I think that would be adorable. And we're going to wrap up with The Perfect Insider, which has been listed as the show that people are the most excited for. And I don't really know why. I think this show is going to be a very slow burn. I watched the first episode and a half. Did another one of those. I watched an episode and a half. And there are things about it that are really interesting. Apparently it's going to turn into a murder mystery, but so far it's just been very kind of psychological in weird ways. And I don't know what it's about. You know, sometimes you watch the beginning of a show and you're like, I'm not sure what this is about, but you're throwing out some interesting breadcrumbs that I'll follow for a while, but eventually I'm gonna give up on finding the actual loaf of bread, right? So, Perfect Insider so far feels like it's throwing out breadcrumbs. Like, lots of really delicious looking breadcrumbs, but I haven't been able to sniff out the bread at all. This is a terrible metaphor, but I think you're kind of seeing where I'm going with it. A lot of people watched the first episode and were like, no, this is gonna be the show. And you can sort of get that feeling that you got from Terror and Resonance, where it's like they're gonna do something really fascinating with this show, or this show is gonna get really dark really fast, you know, where there's kind of a strange tone of unrest when you're watching it and you're kind of waiting for just something terrible or big to happen. That's kind of how I feel watching this show so far. But I haven't been given the inclination that it's going to happen anytime soon, which I think is why it's hard for me to stick around at the very beginning. But I'm definitely going to watch at least the first 5 episodes. But because it's such a slow burn, I might let them stack up and then just sit and try to watch through a bunch of them at once and see whether or not the pacing gets a bit better. And that's all of them. Those are all of the shows that I've watched so far. I think they said that like 40-something new shows started this season, which is nuts. But we made our way through 21 of them. A bunch of them are short form, like I said. We had a couple that are 25 episodes ones. And I am finding this season kind of disappointing overall. There isn't a lot that I'm really excited for, but it's not like there isn't anything, right? I'm super jazzed about One Punch Man. I'm super jazzed about Iron-Blooded Orphans. I'm really enjoying Utawarerumono. Sakurako-san has been fun. Some of the short form stuff, like KAGEWANI, I think could wind up being really cool. So there's some good stuff in here, right? There's some really good stuff in here that I'm definitely going to stick with. Oh my gosh, we literally ran through the entire battery trying to make this video. That's how much I've talked about anime. So I should probably wrap this up. I hope you enjoyed. If you would like to see my wrap-up video from last season, that is on my channel, and I'll link it on our little end slate here. And yeah, if there's a show that I missed that you think I should absolutely watch, feel free to let me know in the comment section. Or if there's a show where I'm like, I don't think it's going to be anything special, and you're like, it is! Feel free to let me know about that as well. And yeah, I'll see you guys at the end of the season when we talk about which shows I stuck with and which I dropped. Have a great day. Mwah!